Let's jump in and talk about late Saturday night. I'm not looking for any pats on the back. I did make it till the start of the fourth quarter.
Attaboy.
And then I took a 2-hour nap. And then I went to the airport.
I made it till the end. I was proud of myself. I had 9 o'clock coffee, but I made it.
Well, I would have made it to the end if I had not. I was like, I got to sleep just a little bit. So I did that. I will tell you, you've gotten up early when you take a flight that departs on the East Coast while it is still dark and lands later on the same said East Coast, and it is still dark. That counts as an early start. All right. Arizona State jumped out to a 10-0 lead. They were up 27-3 at the half. Mississippi State outscored Arizona State 20-3 in the second half of the game. So a little better defensively in the second half, and Arizona State really, really felt like they were trying to run as much time as they possibly could off the clock. I think that was part of the strategy there with them. Hey, Ned, where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with this?
I would say we would start with the fact that if you listen to this show, and if you listen to Thunder and Lightning Live, and if you listen to the Thunder and Lightning podcast, and if you listen to anybody that wasn't feeding you a line this offseason, the defensive performance in this game should not have shocked you, surprised you in any way, shape, or form. They were not good defensively. Now, I don't expect to give up 350 yards rushing to Arizona State bad defensively, but 30 points, that's about right. That's about where I would expect this defense to be year in and year out. So where I would start is to tell you that as terrible as State played defensively, they lost this game because of the offense. We said it all. I said it all off season long. They were going to have to win shootouts, and 3 points in the first half and 24 yards rushing total in this game is not good enough when you hire a coach like Jeff Lebby to run your offense. You expect to have results. You expect to have better performances there. Defensively, yeah, they were crap, but they were going to be crap. I said it all offseason long. I never wavered from that. Offensively is where this game was lost.
Let's look at some of the numbers. 26 first downs for Arizona State, 23 of those on the ground. None of them by penalty. Net rushing yards, 346 to 24. Mississippi State threw for more yards, 268 to 69. Blake Shapen was 18 of 28. No interceptions in the game. Sam Leavitt went 10 of 20 for 69 yards in the game. All total, Arizona State outgains Mississippi State 415 to 292. They got to the quarterback 3 times. Arizona State did 3 sacks of Blake Shapen. Penalties, they didn't play a huge role in the game, I don't think.
No. There was one penalty you could point out would be the offensive pass interference that's called on Craver. That was, it wasn't the most direct call in the world. It was soft, I thought.
It was a soft call.
But at the same time,
3 penalties on Mississippi State for 35 yards, 9 for 85 yards on Arizona State in the game.
Yeah.
Time of possession. Okay, when we talk about time of possession, you have to take into account who are you talking about, right? You're talking about an offense that plays fast, and so Mississippi State rarely is going to win the time of possession battle.
Right.
However, when it's 40-20, 40-13 to 19-47, that's a bit of an issue if your defense that is not great is going to be on the field that much. Isaac Smith was the leading tackler for Mississippi State, 17 total tackles in the game. Stone Blanton had 8. Bryce Pollock had 6. Travion Williams had 6. Hunter Washington had 6, and so on.
Not going to be a lot of great defensive performances where your safety has 17 tackles.
That's a good point. Here's how Mississippi State's drives went. 3-and-out punt, 3-and-out punt, 12 plays, 71 yards, and a field goal. 3 plays and a fumble. 8 plays, turnover on downs, halftime. Second half was better. 12 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 8 plays, 50 yards, touchdown. 5 plays and a punt. 1 play, 80 yards, touchdown. And then Mississippi State never got the ball back. Arizona State able to run the final 5:27 off the clock on a 12-play drive at the end of the ball game. So the rushing numbers, Cam Scatterbo had a monster game. 33 carries for 262 yards and not a single lost yard in the game. Not one time did he get tackled behind the line of scrimmage.
Nope.
Crazy enough, he did not have a rushing touchdown, but averaged almost 8 yards per carry. Sam Levitt, their quarterback, carried it 11 times for a net of 68 yards. He was sacked 1 time for a loss of 4. Levitt went 10 of 20 for 69 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Missed a lot is a relative term. He missed a handful of open receivers that a better quarterback would have completed. I thought he was better at throwing the football last week, and it kind of blinded me. They're going to have some trouble in their passing offense at Arizona State this year.
Kevin Coleman had 4 catches for 103 yards. 80 of those came on 1 play on Mississippi State's final possession of the game. Had a touchdown receiving. Devon Booth had a receiving touchdown as well. You know, you look at – you can't give up 300 yards rushing. I mean, Arizona State was completely in control of that football game. Hey, Dad, even as Mississippi State was coming back, now there was pretty key play in the game with the fumble that Shapen had, right?
Right.
And if not for that,
maybe it's different.
Maybe it turns out differently.
Yeah, that's a big play. Big turnover, turn the points into turns the turnover into a touchdown for Arizona State. But again, I just am not the defense being bad is not the surprise. The surprise was State struggling that much against a defense that's not great and not able to do anything on the ground with this offense that's designed to create those mismatches and give you some ability to run the football. State's running game through 2 games has been not good at all.
And it's impossible to be successful when you're one-dimensional.
Right.
You may, in much the same way that we've talked about for years now with Lane Kiffin's offense, the idea being that, they throw it all over the yard. No.
They do not.
No. The running game makes everything else work, and that's the same thing in Jeff Levy's offense. It's got to have a running game component. Moments out from the ball game that perhaps changed the outcome on Saturday night. Somebody said, don't forget about the 4th and 1 we made, and the ref said ASU called a timeout. Nobody heard the whistle. Next play we couldn't convert. That hurt. Also, their coach was way out on the field trying to count timeout twice. No flags for that either.
Man, all that's great. You rushed for 24 yards in the game. I mean, I can pin it a lot. I can explain why State lost a lot easier than trying to find phantom whistles and no calls. They couldn't run the football.
Another message, the offensive pass interference on Craver was a huge deal. The fumble by Shapen happens right after that. That's probably a 10 or 14-point swing.
It's a big play. There's no question.
Counterpoint, there was a moment that Arizona State got a stop on 4th down, and a weak penalty call gave State another shot, and they scored like 1 play later.
It's just easy. It's easy to try to find excuses. The truth of the matter is State wasn't good enough offensively in this game. State defensively, this is where they're going to be all year, in the giving up 30-plus points range. They have to be able to match that offensively. And they were not able to do that on Saturday night.
And they gave up 30 to a one-dimensional offense.
And they gave up 30. We say 30. They gave up 23.
Yeah.
There's a defensive touchdown in there. So defensively, from a scoring perspective only, they did enough to win. But the offense did not.
The refs didn't cost State the game. Them only scoring 3 points in the first half cost them.
Correct.
You guys are right to have an effective passing game. You need a running game to open it up for the pass. However, to have a run game, you need an effective offensive line to create lanes for the run game. If State's offensive line couldn't handle Arizona State, there's no chance of them succeeding in the SEC with a run game, which will shut down their passing game. It's going to be a long year.
Yeah, that was the most disappointing part, right, is because, as Haydad keeps pointing out, and he's right, and we talked about it a lot this offseason, they lost a ton of personnel from last year's defense and signed the worst transfer portal class in the SEC, 16th out of 16. And the overwhelming majority of players that they signed in that portal class that you expected to play were offensive guys. So the defense getting pushed around up front in the front seven should not be surprising because they did not add what they lost. They didn't go 1 for 1. But the offensive line, every pickup, it was like, yeah, that makes sense. That guy's played a lot of football. That's a good pickup. That's a good pickup. That guy's played a lot of ball. He's played a lot of Power 5, now Power 4 ball. Them not being effective was surprising to me up front on the offensive line because I thought they did a good job of adding via portal experienced guys to play offensive line, and they didn't look like it. I was more surprised by that than anything else on Saturday night.
When, I said the things I said this offseason was if Lebby's teams aren't good offensively, it'll be the first time in his career. Well, there's the first time for everything. And that game last night was not a good offensive game. If State comes out in the first half and just gets 14 points instead of 3, they win the football game. 14 is not a lot to ask. They scored 35 the week before. I know it's against an FCS team, but they just did not do enough offensively in the game. Defensively, this is where this team is. I feel like I was shocked at how many people were like, wow, what's up with the defense? It's like, you say you listen, but I don't know that you are. Because this defense is not going to be good. It lacks talent. And that's the most important thing. Hutzler, it doesn't really matter. Hutzler could be Kirby Smart in terms of schemes and Saban and, everything else. If you don't have the players, it doesn't matter. And State is just lacking in a talent perspective there. But offensively, they cannot play like that and hope to win. When State wins this year, they will win shootouts. If State wins a game where they score less than 30 points this year, I will be really, really, really surprised.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Just need to coach, play, and recruit better. Well, that's a summary.
That is literally true about every team that ever lost a game ever.
Dwayne says, so what offensive changes do you make? He also says, I heard you say it all summer, hey, Dad. I just hate it when you're correct.
Well,
I do like what they have at wide receiver, though. I mean, gosh, if they can protect, if they can run the football some, they've got some guys that can be playmakers playing wide receiver for them.
And Chapin
Absolutely.
is good, and that helps a lot that you have a good quarterback. He can throw the football, but you've got to be able to run it in this offense. This is not the air raid. You cannot rush for 30, 40 yards and have a chance to win in this offense. It has to be better.
We get another message that says this is more evidence of State not being committed in NIL.
Oh, my God. I'm not even going to talk to that person. Just listen to the podcast. That's one where I'm going to tell you. Just listen to the podcast. I don't have time. We don't have enough time in this segment or in this show to refute that. Goodness gracious, y'all.
We've got 13 hours left this week.
We need all 13. Ole Miss, you're just not getting any pub this week.
Should we allot him the remaining 13 hours? I feel like you're passionate about this, and I don't know that I'm
annoying.
I don't know that I always.
It's just like, sometimes
days.
you just lose a recruiting battle. Sometimes you just don't get the guy, and it's got nothing to do with the money. It's got to do with the fact that your program isn't as attractive as somebody else's program is. And until people realize it's not Amazon and you can't just click on a defensive tackle and buy one, we're going to be here.